Together, we will make America great again.
RPN is not responsible for the views, actions, statements, or opinions of its guests, advertisers, or even its viewers. The information contained in this program is not to be confused with medical or legal advice. An appearance on this platform is not necessarily an endorsement, but as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Good evening, everyone. And of course, welcome back. Yes, to another very exciting episode of Red Pill News Live. Hope you guys are having a lovely day. It was a crazy weekend. I'm sure all of you are aware. A man by the name of Thomas Allen Cole, graduate of Caltech, former intern at NASA, teacher of the month, and all-around thoroughly brainwashed, soft, mushy-headed leftist that he is, attempted to assassinate President Trump and other members of the administration. We're not going to bury the lead. We're talking about that first. It went about as well as you would expect, even though a lot of people were very upset about what they claimed was a lack of security at the event. You know, at the end of the day, nobody died, and that's really all that matters. We'll take care of all the rest of it, sort it out in the wash, as they say. So if you guys haven't yet, do me a favor, please hit that like button. Help us out by sharing the show. That would be so awesome. Thank you so much. Filter Dog. World War 11. Ilhan Omar thinks we've had 11 world wars. This woman is too stupid to exist. So sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn. We're going to be right back after this. So when is the last time that you ever physically held your investment? Not checked an app, not watched a number move on a screen, but I mean physically held something in your hand. Because that's what I love about gold. It's real, it's tangible, and it's yours. There's no passwords, there's no logins, no 6-digit codes texted so you can gain access. Because in a world that is getting more and more digital every single day, more abstract, more complicated, gold is just simple. And that's why you're seeing a massive shift into precious metals, because as everything is moving into the cloud, people are starting to see the value in what they can actually hold, because there's something truly powerful about that. Because real ownership is becoming rare, more rare every single day. So if you want to see what that looks like for you, then check out noblegoldinvestments.com/redpill78. The best part is right now, all new qualified accounts are going to receive a free 1/10 of an ounce American Gold Eagle as a thank you. That's real gold in your hands, because that's the whole point. Noble Gold makes it simple. You choose what fits your budget, whether it's coins, bars, whatever makes sense, because it's going to ship right to your door, fully insured. So visit noblegoldinvestments.com/redpill78. And when you support my sponsors, you also support this channel. All right, welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We do have much to discuss, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time getting into bips and bobs. We do have let me just make sure. I want to make sure everything is working. And yes, it does appear that it is. First story we're going to talk about, an update on Jocelyn Benson. Yes, Jocelyn Benson, who sat on the board of the SPLC during the time that the Department of Justice claims they were actually funding and orchestrating extremist hate all around the nation, while at the same time they were asking donors for money to counter extremist hate all around the country. She has, in fact, responded to the story and questions that have been asked by the Michigan GOP and many others. So the current Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, I also would be remiss if I forgot to mention that she's also the current Democratic Party frontrunner for the office of the governor. She was asked a series of direct questions about the time that she served on the board at the Southern Poverty Law Center. Now, the GOP has said that instead of explaining or denying, which are really the only things that matter in a situation like this, any knowledge that she might have had about what the SPLC was doing, their alleged criminal behavior, Jocelyn Benson instead decided to double down, and she is leaning hard into racially charged rhetoric, and who would guess, focusing on President Trump rather than answering the questions about what she knew and when. So this is her exact response word for word. It's actually not written by her. It's written by a PR manager. Jocelyn Benson has spent her career advancing the unfinished work of the civil rights movement and expanding economic opportunity, including helping dismantle white supremacist and neo-Nazi extremist networks responsible for hate crimes across the country. This was the official statement coming from her campaign, and it was delivered to Fox News. Now, she continues by saying, and while Donald Trump is trying to use his Justice Department to distract from his reckless economic policies that are driving up costs for Michiganders, Jocelyn remains focused on lower costs, raising wages, and protecting the rights and freedoms of people in this state. So like I said, she could have answered the question, right? She could have denied any knowledge of whether or not she was aware of this criminal behavior at the time she was sitting on the board, when I theorize necessarily she must have been aware of exactly what the SPLC was up to. And it should not surprise anyone that as one of the nation's leading leftist morons out there and a former board member of the SPLC, Jocelyn instead obfuscated and seemed to vaporize any possibility of getting an answer. She invoked all of those same tired old buzzwords, the racially charged rhetoric that we've been hearing from the left and from the mainstream media and from plenty of Democrat politicians, the same type of rhetoric that I think it's pretty safe to say led to the events that we saw this weekend at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Now, she was appointed to the board of the SPLC in 2014. That just so happens to be the exact year the Department of Justice said they started paying the KKK and other extremist groups, probably in advance of what they knew was going to be a hard-won race if they could pull it off in 2016, because they were all aware that the main contender that year was likely going to be Hillary Clinton. Of course, you had other people running, but none of those people were serious candidates because they weren't nearly as controlling or compromised as Hillary Clinton. If you want a candidate to get into the office of the presidency, 9 times out of 10, you're going to want someone that you can control. And they know that Hillary Clinton is a handful, but they also knew they had at least a couple of dossiers on her just waiting in the wings. So the good news is that the Michigan GOP, and I would hope the national GOP, is not planning on letting this go anytime soon. This is the kind of question they're going to have to probably continue to ask. See if they can get someone to ask it at a press conference, or if Jocelyn Benson is going to be doing a debate with anybody. Maybe they can slide the questions in there as well. I would hope that even after this weekend and these terrible events that took place at the Washington Hilton, maybe somebody might want to step up and ask her, like, hey, Jocelyn, is this a good idea? Do you think this is a good look to continue acting like this? I never thought about this, but I'm pretty sure she's got a Blue Sky account. I wonder what she's saying over there on Blue Sky. But either way, I think that the only thing that makes any sense is for Jocelyn Benson to come forward and to announce, hey, I knew nothing about the criminal activity the very organization I was serving on the board was engaging in at the exact same time that I was there, when I would have probably gotten a chance to look at the books. I might have even signed a couple of checks myself. I was taken advantage of. There's no way I would want to fund the neo-Nazis or fund the KKK. I certainly wouldn't want to have the grand wizard of the Ku Klux Klan on the payroll for the Southern Poverty Law Center, but that's exactly what happened. So we'll have to see what plays out in regards to this, but I don't feel like this is an issue that's going to go away anytime soon. All right. Now, We also have an update on the visa problem. We were just speaking about that last week. We've obviously, in a way, in a manner of speaking, dealt with the H-1B visa problem. But as I was telling you last week, that has led to a surge in other types of visas, including the opt visa, which is a visa that allows foreign workers who come to the United States to do schooling to also work within allegedly the industry that they plan to get their degrees in. But over the weekend, the U.S. Customs and Immigration Service announced that the Trump administration was going to be suspending opt visas from 40 or more high-risk countries. These are countries that are currently right now on something of a travel ban. And you've actually got over 1 million applicants who are currently waiting in the pipeline that are now just stuck in limbo. For the last 4 months, they've actually been unable to get their visas attached to their student schooling. You've got students, some of them who have paid hundreds of dollars, up to $1,800 for the expedited visa review process, but they still can't legally work here in the United States. They may be here for their schooling, but they can't do anything else. Now, I think everybody here knows that's not going to stop some people. They're still going to work illegally in certain areas. Tyler Oliveira recently did a documentary on a town in Texas that is currently overrun with Indian visa holders. A lot of people coming to the United States to do schooling, many of them working, many of them claiming to be legally working, but also many others, it was pretty obvious they were not legally working. I mean, they're going to school for engineering and they're working at a 7-Eleven. And that's totally not within the boundaries of the degree program that they're going to be getting their education in. So there is chaos currently in this field. And right now you've got, hundreds of thousands of jobs, maybe, that will no longer be able to feed immigrants into them if these opt visas remain simply in stasis. And my guy, I love that. I absolutely love that for the American worker. Let's continue to put Americans first. And if people want to move to the United States, then I think that maybe we should just worry about that in like 10 years' time, because currently we have no idea how many tens of millions of illegals and visa holders are here in the United States. Clutchworks right there says, I can't get a job. My heart goes out to you, brother, because I know that there's a lot of people like that out there. MillerBiz says, I skipped most speculation and analysis over the weekend, and I'm so happy to spend the next 2+ hours with Zak and the entire Red Pill 78 crew, where I know we will get the best info and analysis. Thank you so much, MillerBiz. I really appreciate it. Well, listen, before we jump into the subject at hand, Cole Thomas Allen, of course, they always have 3 names, don't they? We always got to make sure we throw in their middle name, even though Cole Allen is a memorable name. I do want to give a big shout out to today's next sponsor. That's going to be my friends over there at Benson Honey Farms. You guys, in a world full of fake everything, so much is fake and gay, but I'll tell you what, not Benson's honey. It's getting harder and harder to trust what you guys can put into your body. And this is why I'm super stoked about Benson Honey Farms. It's real American honey. It's delicious. It is above reproach. You're going to love it. They just sent me a care package the other day. It included their standard good old-fashioned honey, but it also included their hot honey and their barbecue sauce. Oh my gosh, I'm telling you, this is straight from a real small family operation. They still do everything the old-fashioned way. It's pure, it's raw, there's no junk. You're not going to have half honey, half corn syrup, or any of that jazz that you would probably find if you just get your honey at Walmart. Really, this is the real deal. Pure, honest beekeeping from folks who actually care. Whether you're grabbing a jar for your kitchen or you're going to be stocking it up for the crew, either way, you're going to be supporting real Americans, getting honey that you can actually trust. And to find out for yourself, because that's really the only way that I think you guys should do this, is to head on over to BensonHoneyFarms.com. And when you go there right away, you can use the code REDPILL78. They're going to give you 15% off. And make sure, leave them a note, say RedPill78 sent you. It's real honey for real patriots. Do not settle for anything less. I'm telling you guys, this is going to be the best honey you've ever had. And believe me, I've had a lot of honey in my day. All right, so White House Correspondents' Dinner shooter Cole Thomas Allen, had his first court appearance today. And if your sound and video are out of sync, Mother, I think that you should refresh your browser. That's the only thing that I would know to tell you. All right, so Cole is a man from California, and he stayed at the Washington Hilton. He got checked in before the actual event, and then during the event, he came downstairs through what is apparently like a stairwell, like an access stairwell or something like that, and then he ran through like a Heisman Trophy winner and opened fire at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Now, the good news is, like I said, nobody's dead. Nobody's even really injured. There was one Secret Service agent who got hit in the chest. He was wearing his vest, and it wasn't a slug. He had like a shotgun, and then he had a handgun. He was shooting buckshot. So even, even still, it was relatively minor compared to what it could have been. Now, Leroy Jenkins. He ran through there quick. President Trump even commented on it. All right, so Cole is 31 years old. And when he first got arrested, he was charged with using a firearm during a crime of violence and then obviously assaulting a federal officer with a dangerous weapon. But today, when he was arraigned in court, he was hit with an additional 3 charges, and those are going to be obviously the most serious. You've got, number 1, attempting to assassinate the president of the United States. That's enough right there to put you away for a good long time. But he also got transporting a firearm and ammunition with the intent to commit a felony, and then, of course, discharging a firearm during that crime of violence. Now, Cole took an Amtrak train across the country. He took the train from California to Chicago, and then he took the train from Chicago to Washington, D.C. And, word on the street is, I've never actually traveled with a gun on Amtrak, but word on the street is that if you check your weapon, and I don't remember if it said that you had to check your weapon, only that if you did check your weapon, you had to do it 24 hours early, you had to declare it, it would go into your baggage, and then they would hold it for you. I have taken Amtrak before, all right? And I know one of the main narratives that people are really pushing here, well, there's a couple of them. First, people are saying it's fake. The whole thing's fake. It didn't really happen. It's a false flag. President Trump is just trying to distract people. I don't believe that for a second. The second narrative is that the Secret Service are totally incompetent and that this guy never should have been able to get to the point at which he was able to commit this act, even if it was unsuccessful. And then the third is that Amtrak should have never let him travel with that gun. Man, guys, I've traveled on Amtrak before. Nobody ever searched my bag. And you know what? I'm going to be real honest with you. I think when I traveled on Amtrak, I probably had some contraband in my bag. Nobody bothered to check. Nobody asked me if there was anything in there I wasn't supposed to have. And I certainly wouldn't have told them about it. So anyways, on Sunday, it was revealed that Cole also wrote a manifesto. And in that manifesto, and that came out quick, y'all. Okay, I mean, like, this wasn't like one of those things where they had to go to his house and then they found the manifesto. Like, he had already sent the manifesto out to everybody that he knew. I mean, this guy was looking for the accolades. Yeah, Tom says nobody checks bags. Nobody checks bags. So if he had a carry-on bag and he had a couple of guns in there covered up with socks and boxers, nobody's going to look. Okay, so it's not that strange to me that he got all the way across the country with a shotgun that he had broken down, or a handgun, which, I mean, that's small enough. He could have fit that in his jock. So in his manifesto, very early on, he says that in no uncertain terms, he calls President Trump a pedophile and a rapist. Okay. Again, top tier left-wing brain rot narrative drivel right there. And he also claims to be a Christian. I mean, he was like, well, I'm going to read the whole manifesto here just because I think that in service of information, I think that we should read it because I believe that it's important to understand the mind frame of these people. And I feel like at this point, many of us already do. I mean, we see somebody act this way and we recognize, okay, like there's a couple of key things I can probably guess about that person. Probably thinks President Trump's a rapist. Probably thinks President Trump was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Probably thinks that President Trump and ICE are killing American citizens, and they're also deporting your best friend's dad, who is an American citizen. Of course, none of those things are true. All right, so this is a clip from earlier today when he was appearing in court. Let's take a listen.
The hearing has wrapped up. It was very brief, just a few minutes long. They did set a detention hearing for April 30th. I mean, clearly this person's going to remain in custody now and likely forever. May 11th is a preliminary.
You know, I was honestly waiting to see if they were going to set him free without bail. I mean, it is Washington, D.C. after all. Like, how ballsy do you think these judges are? All right, so here is Jeanine Pirro discussing the superseding indictments against Cole Thomas Allen.
Todd Blanche just indicated to you the charges. Those charges are only 3 charges that are in the complaint that has been presented in federal district court about an hour ago. There will be additional charges as this investigation continues to unfold. But
this is as loud as the volume gets on the video. Every single video has its own volume, and I've got everything turned up all the way.
make no mistake, this was an attempted assassination of the President of the United States, with the defendant making clear what his intent was. And that intent was to bring down as many of the high-ranking cabinet officials as he could. This is the kind of situation that we cannot tolerate.
All right, so Lisa makes an observation, which I was actually going to get to at some point, okay? So I've said this before, and in the past, the CIA operated MKUltra research laboratories at colleges, medical research institutions, mental hospitals, even in Skid Row. You know, I mean, like, they would give people acid and then watch them freak out with a hooker in a bedroom with a two-way mirror just to see what would happen, okay? MKUltra as a program was previously about these secret clandestine operations. It's been my contention for a while that what was learned from the MKUltra program was gradually rolled out into mass media, news and entertainment, into other types of messaging and predictive programming. So, yeah, in a manner of speaking, I definitely agree with you. I think that Cole Allen is a victim of MKUltra. I don't think it necessarily means that he was holed up in a research institution getting dosed on LSD or on powerful psychedelics for a period of time. I mean, we're now looking at generations of people who have grown up with this type of mind control programming being broadcast into their brains directly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I think that, yes, the factors and indications of tactics that were honed during the clandestine MKUltra operation days were definitely rolled out into society at large in an effort to better control and to create Manchurian candidates when they would need certain things like this. I mean, just take a look at what they say about President Trump every day, all day, on all of the mainstream media. There's plenty of leftist podcasters out there. I mean, people are always repeating the same old garbage. And you go on a place like Blue Sky. We're going to look at his Blue Sky account here in a minute. And, I mean, he was completely ensconced in this type of language. So I don't think that it necessarily means that he went away, although there is a period of missing time, and we are going to look at that in just a moment. But here is President Trump getting, oh, shoot.
What if President Trump's next major executive order could create more millionaires than any event in modern history?
Yes, TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, is the effect of modern MKUltra programming. All All right, so we're going to look at several different pieces of footage, but gradually I'm going to go through these ones first. This is Heisman Award winner Cole Thomas Allen running through the magnetometer and the security checkpoint inside the hotel.
Hey, now that I got your attention, I want to show you something. This is the Vanish holster, and
what's interesting to me about this is that President Trump shared this first on his Truth Social profile.
It looked like he checked it twice.
And just for anybody who's going to be like, it's blurry, I can't see it. This is literally like the lowest quality potato footage of somebody recording a monitor where the security feed was being broadcast into. So you've got like, you know, the loss of quality from the actual camera, the loss of quality from the iPhone that is filming it, and then the loss of quality from it being uploaded to Truth Social. And it's a home run! And I think right there at that point, they're actually exchanging fire with him, or they're shooting in his direction. But keeping in mind, he did run towards a crowd of people. So this is basically the timeline. All right. So Cole Thomas Allen shows up. He's got a long weapon. They called it. It was a shotgun. We've got a picture of it now. But he did it in a lightly monitored area. So he came down through the stairs, and then he ends up hanging out in an area that appears to be not exactly guarded in the way that many people would expect it to. Let me actually play for you first this firsthand witness account, and then we'll go through that timeline.
Okay. So you're taking tickets at the terrace level? Yeah, and everyone was pretty much in, and a lot of people...
Hang on. This does need to be turned up.
Already gone. We were doing dinner breaks in shifts.
Yeah.
And I was just out there, and there was still security there, and I was even talking to a security guard that had a dog there.
Yeah.
And there's a room, well, it was like a makeshift room. I think they had it closed off to wheel in the bar car.
Wait a second. Can you guys hear this? Somebody's saying they can't hear it. I know Heisman's football, home run is baseball. I was intentionally mixing my sports ball metaphors. Can you guys hear this? Because somebody in the chat was saying they can't hear anything. And that's, I mean, you should be hearing it. Yes, okay. Thank you, Jeff.
After the reception, all these numerous bar carts going into this area, I think to go in the elevator to go downstairs. Okay. So it looked like a makeshift room. I mean, he was literally from me to that building. And there was a security guy there too. I mean, I don't think anyone knew what he was doing.
Describe him. What did he look like?
I'm not even sure what he looked like.
And what made you think he's the shooter? How do you know he's the guy?
I saw him put the gun together and start shooting.
Oh my God.
Yes. I mean, he put it together and started and ran towards the stairs to go down to the ballroom.
Who did he shoot? In what direction did he shoot? What did he shoot?
I don't know what he shot. It just seemed like he was shooting all over the place.
How far away were you when you started shooting from him?
From that building to here.
Did he shoot in your direction?
No, he shot like over towards that way. Like the magas to go in were behind me, and I guess he was shooting towards them.
Okay, so she was on the other side of the magnetometers, and when we saw him running through, he had ran past her. So he was in an area outside initially from the actual security checkpoint to get into the event. And this is where he put that gun together, and there wasn't anybody really standing there watching. So he assembles this shotgun in this area that is less secure. And it was near the terrace entrance level, which is where the actual ballroom event was taking place. There were bar carts that were being stored in that room. There was no need to have security in there. Helen, that's who we just heard from, said it didn't look like a typical gun because it was assembled from a bag. I'm not exactly certain what type of a shotgun it is. But then he rushes through the stairs, heading into the ballroom. He opened fire in multiple directions. It was estimated he shot like 10 times. That was when the law enforcement officer was struck. And I'm sorry, I'm not certain whether or not that was a Secret Service agent or if that was like local police. I'm pretty certain it was a Secret Service agent. But from what I understand, he is recovering. Obviously, getting shot in the chest, whether it's a slug or buckshot, doesn't matter. That's still going to hurt. And then, of course, they arrested him very quickly thereafter. Everybody else was safe. And it's interesting. They like stripped him naked because he definitely was wearing clothes when he came through initially. But they stripped him down and they had him on the ground as they searched him. Maybe that was just to make sure that he didn't have anything else on him. I'm not exactly certain. I thought it was a little strange. But here is the shotgun. And, you know, I mean, most people don't disassemble their shotguns. I mean, once they put them together, they put them together. They're usually going to come put together. But you can break them down for whatever reason. And so that's it right there. And I'm looking to see if they had, it doesn't look to me like it's anything special, you know, it's a pump action shotgun with a pistol grip right there. So, they were looking for a bomb? That makes total sense. And, you know, I mean, that's one of the things that I kept hearing people say is, you know, like, what if somebody had a bomb? That would have been the most devastating scenario if that had happened. Now, like I said, the manifesto came out rather quickly. All right, so everybody knew exactly what this guy was doing. But typical fashion, Barack Obama, after the event, he goes on Twitter and he like posts this like cautionary message about we can't jump to any conclusions. Like, how many times has this happened now, right? You know, it's at this point, President Trump has had so many freaking attempts on his life. I think maybe people are expecting it to happen. I mean, if there's a public event and President Trump is going to be there, I mean, certainly the Secret Service is expecting it to potentially happen, but I think a lot of people that are in attendance are probably feeling very nervous about this. So Barack Obama says, although we don't yet have the details about the motives behind last night's shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, it's incumbent upon all of us to reject the idea that violence has any place in our democracy. It's also a sobering reminder of the courage and sacrifice that U.S. Secret Service agents show every day. I'm grateful to them and thankful that the agent who was shot is going to be okay. All right, so literally everybody was like, yo, Hussein, we literally know exactly why this guy did it. He published a freaking manifesto. He said, I want to kill Trump. He said, Trump's a pedo and a rapist. I'm coming in there to kill people. I think the only person that he explicitly said he didn't want to harm was Kash Patel. And I think that that's just because Kash Patel is a brown person. All right, so the manifesto had said that he wanted to target administration officials, and I guess they also found similar messages all across his social media accounts, not just anti-Trump, but also anti-Christian. This kid was allegedly raised a Christian, but when he got to college, he joined a couple of super woke lefty organizations, and that's when the real programming kicked in. His brother allegedly alerted New London Police Department after he had received the manifesto. So this was allegedly like 10 minutes or so before the incident, but the police didn't do anything about it. So U.S. Secret Service and Montgomery County Police Department also later spoke directly with Mr. Allen's sister. Her name is Avriana. That was in Rockville. And she said that her brother often made radical statements and spoke about doing something to fix today's world. That shows a clear state of mind and a pattern of behavior. She confirmed that he had bought 2 handguns and a shotgun from Cap Tactical Firearms. It doesn't really matter where he bought them. He bought them legally, and he stored them at his parents' home without their knowledge. He would regularly train with those firearms at shooting ranges. Also, not weird. If you buy guns, you're going to shoot them. He was reportedly linked to the group I mentioned a moment ago called the Wide Awakes. That one is the weird one. But he also was an avid attendee of No Kings protests in California. So again, he was fully ensconced in this just radical left-wing brainwashing MKUltra programming. So The White House also confirmed that the New London police were warned about Cole Thomas Allen's likely behavior because they received the manifesto from the brother, and then they did not warn the feds, either because they didn't take it seriously or perhaps the person who received it from the brother didn't want anything to be done to warn President Trump or the people in the administration. So Kash Patel, obviously, and the FBI are investigating this. They're looking into it, and they're going to determine exactly what happened. But they did put out a timeline stating that 10 minutes before the shooting attempt, Allen sent the manifesto. His brother, who has ties to New London, Connecticut, received it, immediately contacted the New London police. This is a key timeline per the New London PD's official statement. They said they received the call at 10:49. That's about 2 hours after the shooting had already occurred, which is different from what was said earlier. They said the caller reportedly wanted to share information related to the incident, and that happened earlier this evening. New London PD says it immediately notified federal law enforcement, but of course, the other reporting says that the New London PD received it beforehand. That's all going to have to get worked out by the FBI. Now, let's take a look at this manifesto, because Cole's his manifesto clearly shows exactly why he did it. He also attacked the Secret Service, calling them incompetent and suggesting that he could have gotten away with much, much more if he had wanted to. Now, of course, anybody was there at the event that night, so everybody's very lucky that nothing happened. As I was saying earlier, a lot of people are calling this a security failure because Cole was able to get so close to the event. However, I would say probably all of those people are not security professionals. They're not police. So, hindsight is always 20/20. And what did work was that once he ran through the security perimeter, the Secret Service agents and the law enforcement that were present, they were able to take him down before anybody was seriously hurt. So in that respect, of course, it was a success. But a lot of people who went to the event, and I would say primarily left-wing journalists, but also some right-wing journalists, the overwhelming sentiment was that they didn't feel that it was safe enough. I've heard differing reports. There were a certain number of agents outside of the room. There was obviously the process by which people entered. They did have to go through either one or multiple magnetometers. They had to take everything out of their pockets, put it into a basket, kind of like when you go to the airport, and then somebody would look through that and then hand the items back over. They weren't checking phones to see if they were bombs or anything like that. A lot of people had said that nobody actually checked their ticket. They just flashed a ticket and they were hand waved through. But I've also heard that inside the actual event itself, every single table had at least one agent in it, which would make it a couple of hundred agents inside the room. And then obviously you had the team that was protecting J.D. Vance, and then you had the team that was protecting the president. So here is Cole Allen's actual... Oh, no, wait. Hang on just a second. Yeah, okay. First of all, this is important. This is the path that he went down. Okay, so he was staying on the floor above. Okay, he checked in the day before, so there was nobody checking him, asking, if he was going to be at the event. He was just saying, I'm staying at the hotel. He went in, he went upstairs, and he hung out in his room. So this is the area where he ran through, and then he ran down these stairs, and then down another flight of stairs, and then came out to head into the ballroom. Not exactly certain where the shots took place, but he did get through pretty quickly. You saw how fast he ran. And then it was when he got down here. It says he sprinted about 60 feet. That was when he was tackled and they took him into custody. Okay, so let's take a look at this manifesto here. Oh, shucks. I thought that the whole thing was linked in here, but it looks like it apparently isn't. I had a tweet that I had saved it in earlier. Ooh, here we go. Here is the handgun that he had. It's like he's got himself a 1911. And then there is the shotgun with nice little tactical folding stock. Okay. Cole Allen Manifesto. Okay. So, you said, it's so weird. The tone is odd. Hello, everybody. So I may have given people, a lot of people, a surprise today. Let me start off by apologizing to everyone who trust I abused. I apologize to my parents for saying I had an interview without specifying it was for the most wanted. That's actually kind of funny. I apologize to my colleagues and students for saying I had a personal emergency. And by the time anyone reads this, I probably most certainly do need to go to the ER. But I can hardly call that not a self-inflicted status. I apologize to all the people I traveled next to, all the workers who handled my luggage, and all the other non-targeted people at the hotel who I put in danger simply by being near. I apologize to everyone who was abused and or murdered before this, to all those who suffered before I was able to attempt this, to all those who may still suffer after, regardless of my success or failure. I don't expect forgiveness, but if I could have seen any other way to get this close, I would have taken it. Again, my sincere apologies. You know what this kind of reminds me of is, I mean, not necessarily in the language, just in the kind of tone, the way he is saying, oh, I had a shot and I had to take it. Basically, Tyler Robinson, the way that they wrote Tyler Robinson's letter as well. Anyways, sincere apologies on why I did any of this. I am a citizen of the United States of America. What my representatives do reflects on me, and I am no longer willing to permit a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat my hands with his crimes. And he's obviously talking about President Trump. Well, to be completely honest, I was no longer willing a long time ago, but this is the first real opportunity I've had to do something about it. Now, while I'm discussing this, I'll also go over my expected rules of engagement, probably in a terrible format, but I'm not military, so too bad. Administration officials, not including Mr. Patel, there are targets prioritized from highest rank to lowest. Secret Service, they are targets only if necessary and to be incapacitated non-lethally if possible. I don't know how this guy thought he was going to non-lethally incapacitate Secret Service agents. That's pretty insane that he was thinking that was even a possibility or even suggesting it. AKA, I hope they're wearing body armor because center mass with shotguns messes up people who aren't. Hotel security, not targets if possible, AKA unless they shoot at me. Capitol Police, same as hotel security. National Guard, same as hotel security. Hotel employees, not targets at all. Guests, not targets at all. In order to minimize casualties, I will also be using buckshot rather than slugs, less penetration through walls. I would still go through most everyone here to get to the targets if it were absolutely necessary, on the basis that most people chose to attend a speech by a pedophile, rapist, and traitor, and are thus complicit. But I really hope it doesn't come to that. And rebuttals to objections. Objection 1, as a Christian, you should turn the other cheek. Rebuttal. Turning the other cheek is for when you yourself are oppressed. I'm not the person raped in a detention camp. I'm not the fisherman executed without trial. I'm not a school kid blown up or a child starved or a teenage girl abused by the many criminals in this administration. None of that has happened. Not a single one of those things has happened, but they're all part of that left-wing narrative. Turning the other cheek when someone else is oppressed is not Christian behavior. It is complicity in the oppressor's crimes. He's probably also read the Communist Manifesto, I would imagine. Objection 2, this is not a convenient time for you to do this. Well, it's never a convenient time for you to screw your life up like this. Rebuttal. I need whoever thinks this way to take a couple of minutes and realize that the world isn't about them. Do you think when I see someone raped or murdered or abused, I should walk on by because it would be inconvenient for people who aren't victims? I guarantee you this guy has never seen any of those things firsthand. Objection 3. You didn't get them all. Rebuttal. Got to start somewhere. Objection 4. As a half black, half white person, you shouldn't be the one doing this. Rebuttal. I don't see anyone else picking up the slack. Objection 5. Yield unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Rebuttal. The United States of America are ruled by law, not by any one or several people. Insofar as representatives and judges do not follow the law, no one is required to yield to them anything so unlawfully ordered. That's actually kind of based. I would also like to extend my appreciation to a great many people, since I will not be likely to talk to them ever again unless the Secret Service is astoundingly incompetent. And I think he means that if they don't kill him, that means that they're astoundingly incompetent. I mean, personally, I'm glad that he's not dead, because I want this guy to talk. Thank you to my family, both personal and church, for your love over these 31 years. Thank you to my friends for your companionship over many years. Thank you to my colleagues over many jobs for your positivity and professionalism. Thank you to my students for your enthusiasm and love of learning. Thank you to the many acquaintances I've met in person and online for short interactions and long-term relationships, for your perspectives and inspiration. Thank you all for everything. Sincerely, Cold Force, Friendly Federal Assassin, Alan. And then he says, P.S. Okay, now the sappy stuff is done. What the hell is the Secret Service doing? Sorry, I'm going to rant here a bit and drop the formal tone. Like, I expected security cameras at every bend, bugged hotel rooms, armed agents every 10 feet, metal detectors out the wazoo. What I got, who knows, maybe they're pranking me, is nothing. No damn security, not in transport, not in the hotel, not in the event. Like, the one thing that I immediately noticed walking into the hotel is the sense of arrogance. He got there before the event was even taking place, so I don't know what he was expecting. I walk in with multiple weapons and not a single person there considers the possibility that it could be a threat. Was he brandishing these weapons in downtown D.C.? Because if he was, then obviously somebody would have looked at him as a threat. But he also walked in as a brown person in Washington, D.C., which is overwhelmingly leftist. So most people probably would have looked at him and said, oh my God, it's a brown guy. Don't look at him too hard. Otherwise, he might think that you're being racist. The security of the event is all outside. Not true, because we know there was security inside. Focused on protesters and current arrivals, because apparently no one thought about what happens if someone checks in the day before. This is the one thing that, that kind of shocked me, is that there wasn't background checks that were done on the people who were staying in the hotel, that there weren't any questions that were asked. I mean, I've always assumed that if you were going to be someplace where the president was, you were probably going to be looked at yourself. Like, this level of incompetence is insane, and I very sincerely hope it's corrected by the time this country gets actually competent leadership again. Like, if I was an Iranian agent instead of an American citizen, I could have brought a damn Mod Deuce in here, and no one would have noticed shit. Actually insane. Oh, and if anyone is curious about how doing something like this feels, it's awful. I want to throw up. I want to cry for all the things I wanted to do and never will. For all the people whose trust this betrays, I experience rage thinking about everything this administration has done. Can't really recommend it. Stay in school, kids. So this guy's obviously out of his mind. Unfortunately, he's out of his mind. And he is completely caught up in the TDS narrative. Now, Bill Malugin, this is his thoughts on security. He said the first exterior security for me was on the street outside the hotel. I flashed my ticket and I was waved in 1 second. My name was not checked against any list. I showed no ID. I was not patted down. I did not go through a metal detector. I probably could have shown a ticket from a prior year or a fake one, as they barely looked at it. I don't know who that exterior security was. They were guys in suits. That does appear to be concerning to me, just being honest. From that point, I walked into the hotel with no further security check. And I walked down to the Fox pre-party where there were multiple ballrooms that were absolutely packed with attendees. Still did not go through any security at that point. Hypothetically, if I had hidden an explosive in my shoe or my jacket, I would have had no problem getting into one of those ballrooms. Only once it was time to get into the main ballroom for the dinner did we pass through magnetometers. Now, at this point, you're getting into the same room as President Trump, so that does make sense. We had to empty our pockets. We also had to get patted down, and even the checkpoint was just outside of the dinner room. So all of this right here, I saw people saying there were no magnetometers, there was no pat down, nobody checked anything. But by the time you get to the area where you're supposed to be around the president, all of this stuff is happening. So the people saying those things online, I don't know that they ever even got close enough to the president to really experience what the full complement of security was like. He says, two things can be true at the same time. Secret Service acted quickly to an active armed threat and prevented that threat from getting into the ballroom. Kudos. But that security leading up to that point, in my opinion, appeared to be lacking severely. Now, again, I've never been to one of these events. I would imagine Bill Malugin probably has. I mean, they have them in D.C. every single year. So I don't know what security at one of them would have been like in the past. That is certainly a question that I think should be answered. All right, now Kanakoa was able to find archived tweets of Cold Force 3000, which is Cole's prior Twitter account. Basically, once President Trump won the election, he left Twitter for good. Now, he was predicting that Kamala Harris was going to win all of the swing states and at least 3 red states. So on election night, he was really, really devastated. You can see here, he said, I'm leaving for, well, first of all, he said, based on Iowa, predicting Kamala wins all swing states and at least 3 red states, which is so funny. Spud Hill, yes, I was saying the only thing that made sense to me there is that Kash Patel is a brown person. I think that's probably why he did that. The only thing humorous about America, this is the 12th after the election, the only thing humorous about America not having learned from Germany about what happens when Nazis get elected is that Russia may not have learned from the USSR about what happens when it makes agreements with Nazis. And then finally, leaving for bluer skies. As soon as I get my data archive, I don't think there's much more reason to be here. All right, so, and then we have, God, is this is him reposting Midas Touch, which is that left-wing shill news organization. Breaking, Taylor Swift endorses VP Kamala Harris. That's not something to get excited about. And he's tweeting Kamala Harris out talking about Project 2025. So it's a who's who of the big left-wing voices and politicians who all said the same stuff that Cole had said about President Trump in his manifesto. Now, President Trump on Saturday night afterwards, he had a press conference and he spoke about a number of things, basically related to this. But he was asked, why so many people try to kill you?
Trump, there's a report in the New York Post that this assailant assembled his weapon somewhere on site at the hotel. What do you think about that? And I ask respectfully, why do you think this keeps happening to you?
Well, I've studied assassinations, and I must tell you, the most impactful people, the people that do the most, you take a look at the people, Abraham Lincoln, you go through the people that have gone through this, where they got them. But the people that do the most, the people that make the biggest impact, they're the ones that they go after. They don't go after the ones that don't do much because they like it that way. And when you look at the people that have either, whether it was an attempt or a successful attempt, they're very impactful people. Just take a look at the names there, the big names. And I hate to say I'm honored by that, but I've done a lot. We've done a lot.
The sound is turned up as high as it can go on my end, you guys. I will say it again. Every single video source is mastered prior to being uploaded to Twitter. And I can only do so much to make it any louder on my end, and I've already done that. So I just encourage you to turn up the volume on your end if you think that it's too low, because I can't go any higher. I'm going to just rewind it a little bit, because I think this is a brilliant answer.
People that make the biggest impact, they're the ones that they go after. They don't go after the ones that don't do much because they like it that way. And when you look at the people that have either, whether it was an attempt or a successful attempt, they're very impactful people. Just take a look at the names there, the big names. And I hate to say I'm honored by that, but I've done a lot. We've done a lot. We've taken this country, and we were a laughing stock for years, and now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We've changed this country. And there are a lot of people that are not happy about that. So I think that's the answer, Peter.
And after Butler, you're
So
Trump.
Here's the thing, like, for the people who are saying that President Trump faked this, like, honestly, to what end? Why would he need to fake another assassination attempt? What is he truly going to gain from this? He's not running for office again. He doesn't need anybody's sympathy. All he needs is to just continue doing his job. Another assassination attempt is not going to make Congress work with him. It's not going to make the job any easier. And to be frank, there are already a ton of people out there who truly want to kill him. There are no shortage of TDS suffering, brain worm afflicted morons who want to see President Trump go away. So I don't believe for a second that he would have gone out and actually coordinated with this left-wing moron and faked this entire thing. Now, I saw this earlier today, and I was actually thinking about doing this, looking on Google Trends to see if anybody had searched for Cole Thomas Allen. And this is actually the incorrect spelling, but somebody did look for Cole Thomas Allen prior to the events of Saturday night, which is strange, obviously, because it lends itself to the idea that there would have been some foreknowledge about this on behalf of somebody somewhere, but they spelled his name wrong. And so, you know, you've got people searching for him in countries all around the world, which include Switzerland, Thailand, China, Central African Republic, Ethiopia, Gibraltar, Moldova, South Korea, and Tanzania, all over the place. Also Israel. There was a searches done for him in Israel as well. All right, now we're going to get into some weird stuff. All right, so as soon as the name of the attempted assassin came out, B. Peterson, I do not accept Venmo. I accept Cash App. I don't have Venmo. I was kicked off of PayPal many years ago, and so in order to have Venmo, you have to have PayPal. So you can donate on Cash App. It is $ZakPaine, ZakPaine. You can also go to my website, redpill78news.com. You can also go to Ko-Fi, which is ko-fi.com/redpill78, and you can do it there. All right. Now, as soon as the name of the shooter came out, everybody started searching for that name, right? So they go to Twitter. They look to see if he's got a Twitter account. Well, his Twitter account, as I showed you, was deleted after President Trump won the election and he went to Blue Sky. But there was this account right here, Henry Martinez. Now, first I want to show you his avatar is a Pepe holding a glass of champagne, wearing a tuxedo. This just so happens to be the same attire President Trump wore on Saturday night. Of course, not the first time President Trump has worn a tuxedo with a bow tie. His name is Henry Martinez. He joined December of 2023, and that same month, I don't know if it was the same day, but certainly the same month, in December 21st of 2023, Henry Martinez posted one thing, and it was the name Cole Allen, which just so happens to be the name of Cole Allen. Now, is it possible that all the way back in 2023, Cole Allen was planning to maybe do something like this at some point in the future? Did he use this name and then post his own name, hoping to create some type of buzz about himself in the future? Maybe, but that's all speculative, as is any conversation about why this account exists. This photograph right here, this is also an interesting part, and it, in my mind, kind of takes away from the idea that Cole Allen did this himself, because I'm going to tell you who Henry Martinez is. Henry Martinez was a NASA employee who in 2014 worked there at the Goddard Space Flight Center. And 2014 just happens to be the same year that Cole Allen did a summer internship at NASA, and he worked with Henry Martinez. So it would mean that Cole Allen, if he made that account, the Henry Martinez account, he used the name of perhaps his mentor at NASA and then posted his own name. Who knows? But that image in the headline is really, really the interesting part here. Before I show you the dive on that image, I do want to show you Cole Allen's resume right here, because we've got the 2014 Summer Undergraduate Research Fellowship at NASA JPL. Okay, so this proves that he was there. We've already verified Henry Martinez was there at the exact same time. In 2016, he was a mechanical engineering intern. That would have been, probably that summer. 2016 to 2017, he was a teaching assistant at Caltech. 2017 to 2018, he was a mechanical engineer at IJK Controls. And then there's nothing from 2018 to 2020. He just has a 2-year gap right here. And then in 2020, he shows up as a software developer at SUCAM Intelligent Education Systems. And then that same year, he becomes a teacher at C2 Education, which is where he received the Teacher of the Month award. That 2-year gap is very interesting to me. I'd love to know what he was doing during that 2-year gap. Now, if we are looking at some type of an MK Ultra Manchurian candidate type situation, that 2-year gap might be critical. That might inform everything about the reasoning for him actually committing what he did on Saturday night. But I want to show you now. So this is the image right here. And this is a larger version of that image that was in Henry Martinez's background. Now, this picture can be traced back to 2022 to a website called timemachine.eu. And if you go to timemachine.eu today, that image has been completely removed. It's been scrubbed from their account. Now, it was part of a blog post, which, is here in their latest update section, but now it's gone. It is, however, discoverable through an archive web search. So you can go find the archived site and it's there. It proves that it was there. Now, Time Machine is really interesting, okay? And this isn't like an actual time machine, like actually going back in time, but it's a technology that's developed in Europe to essentially create a multi-layered graphical interface for information about different places in Europe. And it's something that is designed to give people more information about certain locations. But obviously the name Time Machine, it rings, right? Especially with the Baron Trump, the fabulous adventures of Baron Trump, the last president, John Trump, and all of Tesla's research. There's a lot of interesting little side branches you could go down there. But what was most interesting to me, and I saw this right away, is that if you take a look at this picture, it almost looks like there's another picture embedded inside of it. And that's kind of the idea that Time Machine is working with, like taking all of this 3D graphical data and embedding other information in it. Now, if you're taking a look at this, you can see that it clearly shows something. Now, I'm not going to tell you what I think it is just yet, because I want you to actually see when you overlay this image of President Trump at Butler over it, it seems to line up pretty good. You've got the fist, the arm, you've got President Trump's face. To a lesser degree, you've got Sean Curran over here. You've got the American flag, but President Trump holding his arm up in that iconic fight, fight, fight image. I think it's a dead match, and I can't not see it now. Take a look at this. It was overlaid by somebody, and to me, it totally tracks for me, guys. And I know that I'm like an old school conspiracy theorist, but to me, this really, really hits hard. Now, again, this image is from 2022. This is from way before Butler. Way before Butler, okay? So now that I've told you this, we go back to the Henry Martinez post where he names Cole Allen and he uses this picture in 2023 before Butler. And you have to ask yourself, wow, does time machine mean more than just a clever buzzword for marketing? Is it an actual time machine? And then, of course, people have seen this and said, well, it just proves that the administration did this. President Trump is trolling us. It is a false flag because they went back in time and they implanted this stuff so then people would find it. I did say that the image is no longer available. I couldn't find it when I was looking for it today. So I went through all of 2024. It was posted in like May or April or May of 2024, and it's not there anymore. If you can find it, please, by all means. So people have said, oh, okay, well, this just means that President Trump has a time machine. And so President Trump is trolling us. President Trump knew this was going to happen. President Trump made it happen or something like that. Well, I don't think that that's necessarily, and I'm not even saying it is a real time machine, okay? But certainly it's a strange series of data points. And even if there was a time machine, in my mind, it doesn't mean that a time machine could be used to change the future, because the future itself, in my opinion, is likely immutable, which means that the future has already been decided. It's already been written. And so even if you had access, you wouldn't necessarily be able to change the outcome. You might just change the way you get to the outcome, which would still lead to the looking glass. Yes, using looking glass, would you be able to see the future? And that was the whole point about looking glass, is that they could see the future, but they couldn't change the future. But just by knowing the future, well, then they could do certain things to make it as good as possible. All we can do is guess. This is all speculative. That's why I said that. It's all speculative, but damn, it's interesting, isn't it? It is so interesting. Just take a look at this one more time. You go from the full Butler picture to just the time machine image, and to me, it's undeniable. Absolutely undeniable. Okay. So why do people accept that this truly preceded Butler? Because it was on the internet several years before Butler. In order for it to be updated now, I mean, I just don't see it. I don't see it. You would have to have somebody behind the scenes at Twitter. You would also have to have somebody behind the scenes at that website. You would also have to have too many people in too many places all at the same time. And for what? Who would do it? Who would do it, right? I mean, again, I ask you, why would President Trump do that? I don't think that he would. I just simply don't think that he would. There's no need to. There's no need to. President Trump is not here to make friends. He's here to kick ass and chew bubblegum. And he's all out of bubblegum, okay? Now, I ran the image through a series of decryptors, trying to see if there was any hidden messages or information in there. And pulling it through APRA right here, you can pull all of these different layers out. It's just a bunch of noise, really, at the end of the day. There are many different other decryption methods that I don't have access to. There is a bunch of code inside there, but it basically leads to nothing. I also had Grok take a look at it after I decoded it. It said that it was nothing. And actually, you know what? I already closed it out. So, yeah. So, here also is another weird thing that people were saying, you know, oh, well, this proves something nefarious. Take a listen. This is a journalist. Her name is Aisha Hosni. She was on the phone with Fox, and she was telling them what happened, and her Caroline Levitt's husband started to tell her something, and then she got disconnected.
I want to just quickly tell you.
And let me see. I can make this louder.
I want to just just quickly tell you, I was sitting next to Caroline Levitt, the press secretary's husband. He was one of our guests. He was seated right next to me, and right as the dinner was starting, the national anthem happened, and then he kind of leaned over and said, I watched you on TV, you do a great job. You need to be very safe. And he was just very serious when he said that to me. And he kind of looked around the room and he said, there are some...
There are some what? There are some what? So, Kevin Cork is on the line and he's like, oh, that's weird. We lost her.
Sounds like we lost Aisha's phone there. And this happens, by the way, especially when you have so many people attempting to utilize the same cell service at the...
Okay, so people were presenting that as something nefarious. Well, she immediately went to Twitter and she said, yeah, our calls were dropping because there's barely any service in that ballroom. So to finish the story, he was telling me to be careful with my own safety because the world is crazy, which is what my own father and other people have said to me recently. And it is. D.C. is not a safe place. I mean, even not having any idea that something like this was going to happen, it's not a difficult thing to guess. It's also not a thing, I think, outside the realm of possibility for somebody to say. He was expressing his concern for my safety. I was going to say before I lost my signal that it was unfortunate that only a short time later this all happened. When we heard people shouting, "Get down," he jumped into action and made sure myself and others at our table got on the ground. He was heroic in his actions, and I will forever be grateful. So while Caroline Levitt's husband made sure that other people at the table were safe, plenty of the other journalists were like stealing bottles of champagne, bottles of wine, and even worse, we'll talk about them in a second. But real quick, before we continue, I have a very brief message from our friends over here on Rumble. All right, you guys, parents, time for some real talk because America is about to hit a major milestone. We're coming up on America's 250th birthday. That's 250 years of freedom, grit, sacrifice, and the greatest experiment in self-governance the world has ever seen. This is the perfect moment to help your kids understand why this country matters, because the story behind it all is what counts. Now, there's a free guide called The Kid's Guide to America's 250th Birthday. It's honestly a very good way to introduce your kids to how America began, who the founding fathers were, what they risked, why the ideas they fought for still matter today. This kid's guide sends them back to the moment when those brave men signed the Declaration of Independence, knowing full well they were risking everything for freedom. Breaks it all down in a way that kids can actually understand, but most importantly, enjoy. It's not going to water it down or turn it into boring schoolwork. So if you care about raising kids who know where this country came from, why it's worth preserving, this is something you're going to want to grab. And the best part is it's totally free. You just pay $2 for shipping and handling. So head on over to freeusabirthday.com. That's freeusabirthday.com. And the Kid's Guide to America's 250th Birthday is there for your kids today. Because America's story matters. Make sure the next generation knows it. Okay, and one more. Brand new sponsor today. All right, so redpillnews.petclub247.com just came on board as a sponsor, and they sent me a whole bunch of stuff for the dogs. They also sent me and Lisa the Enforce and this Coriolus Versicolor I've actually told you guys about before. There was a story that I showed you about a guy who had adopted a dog. As a puppy, it started growing a tumor on its face. He was told by the vet that he was going to have to put the dog down because the tumor was just going to keep growing. They needed to cut off half of his face. Gave him the Coriolus Versicolor, and the tumor completely receded. 5 years later, the dog was still alive. So I am giving this to the dogs. Lisa and I are taking it right now. Obviously, we don't have anything to worry about at this time, but there is no reason from my perspective to not do everything within my power to keep myself and my family healthy, and that includes the dogs. So check out the link in the description below. Thank you very much. All right, CanCon, thank you very much for rating the stream. Appreciate you, buddy. All right, so the dinner was also attended, of course, by a number of very close people to President Trump. Harrison Fields, he was the deputy press secretary during President Trump's first term. He had some comments on President Trump's affect and mood while he was there. Another one of the criticisms that I saw was how quickly the Secret Service dragged J.D. Vance out of there. One agent came out, grabbed him, and yanked him off stage. It was very different from what happened with President Trump. He had 4 agents around him already. And President Trump spoke on it. He said, you know, I didn't want to go. He's like, I wanted to hear exactly what was happening. And only after the quick reaction force came out, the guys with, you know, the helmets and the long guns and the vests, only once they came out did President Trump move off stage. But what people forget is that anytime the president's got to move in a situation like that, they need him to be completely enclosed in a circle of bodies because they have no idea where the shots may likely be coming from. But here is Harrison Fields giving his perspective.
My biggest concern, and I felt this way as soon as I walked into the hotel, there was no checkpoints to get into the hotel. Right. All the receptions, where Fox News reception was, where Wall Street Journal reception was, and CBS, a bunch of them, there was no security apparatus to get to those receptions. So in many ways, this guy could have been looking at us, going in there. I was in receptions where cabinet secretaries were. There was a VIP reception right off the main ballroom where cabinet secretaries were, where the president could have been. And there was no security apparatus leading up to that point. So I think there's going to have to be a buffer. Of course, everyone can Monday morning quarterback, and we have to agree that the Secret Service and local law enforcement took immediate steps to keep us safe. But there was no real buffer, and that was one of the immediate feelings I felt as soon as I walked into the hotel.
Okay, so again, people did not feel particularly safe. Now, here is President Trump recounting what happened when they actually rushed him off. We saw that little video right there, but here he is speaking.
Full of mucus? Try this to clear it out fast.
Wrong button.
That breathing problems
Hold on.
have nothing to do.
You see the security.
Okay, back it up.
You see the security moving quickly, right, within seconds, grabbing the vice president by his coat, lifting him up, bringing him out. Then the counter assault comes in. Took 10 seconds for them to flank you, Mr. President, and then 20 seconds to get you out.
Now, I want everybody to think back to Butler, too, because this was another criticism that people had at that time. You know, like, why didn't they just yank him out of there? Well, because there were still bullets that were flying. They still didn't know the full extent of the threat. And what they have to do in a situation like this is completely surround the president, right? They have to make sure that there is a human shield around every possible angle of approach. That's exactly what they did in Butler, and that's exactly what they did on Saturday.
It looked chaotic. At one point, you were down. What was happening?
Well, what happened is it was a little bit me. I wanted to see what was happening, and I wasn't making it that easy for him. I wanted to see what was going on. And by that time, we started to realize maybe it was a bad problem, different kind of a problem, bad one, and different than what would be normal noise from a ballroom, which you hear all the time. And I was surrounded by great people, and I probably made them act a little bit more slowly. I said, wait a minute, let me see, wait a minute. So, I'm telling guys.
Just at that moment where it looks like you go sort of down with the service, you were telling them to wait?
Well, no, what happened is then I started walking with them. I started walking, and they said, please go down on the floor. So I went down, and First Lady went down also, but we were asked to go down by the agents as I was walking.
No, President Trump announced Vance for VP pick at the Republican National Convention, which happened after Butler.
They wanted you almost to crawl.
I was standing up pretty much.
Another thing is that President Trump was with Melania at this event, so she too had to be shielded. So that meant likely they needed a couple of extra people to surround them. J.D. Vance was again on his own. That's why they grabbed him by the coat and just yanked him off stage.
I was standing up and then turned around the opposite direction and started pretty much walking out, pretty tall, a little bent over because I'm not looking to be standing too tall. And but I was walking out. It was about halfway there, and they said, please go down to the floor, please go down to the floor. So I dropped to the floor, so did the First Lady.
Is someone saying they found the image? Okay, Lisa, let Army Vet's wife post that because I could not find it on the website earlier today. Go ahead, Army Vet's wife, post it again. Yeah, Nora O'Donnell is a total bozo. President Trump called her out a little bit later on in the... Lisa's quick on the draw for the links. That's right, because usually they're porn bots or people trying to steal your money. So she wants to make sure. All right, now President Trump and she also watched the. Okay, so this is not the original place that the image was posted on that website. This is on I think this is the actual website of the guy who posted it. What I was trying to do was show the original post from the website itself. So this is not dated either. This is just, but it says this is April 29th. April 29th, 2022. Okay, it's dated in the URL. Okay, so here, I'll pull this up in just a second. But here is President Trump on 60 Minutes discussing this guy running fast.
Fired off one or two rounds.
His speed was rather incredible, actually. It was like a blur.
How did he get that close with the place swarming with security?
I will say, look, I say it because I'm a big fan of the people of law enforcement. And, some of these people, they may be crazy, but they're not stupid, and they figure things out. He ran 45 yards, they say, and he just went to it, and then, boom, he popped through it. I mean, he ran like, I think the NFL should sign him up. He was fast. When you look at it on tape, it's almost like a blur.
Right.
But it was amazing, because as soon as they saw that, you could see them draw their guns. They were so professional, aimed their guns, and then they took them down immediately.
Fired off one.
Okay. So here is the website that I believe the Time Machine website took the image from. But again, I can't go to the original post from the Time Machine website because that one has been scrubbed. But this is coming from a website called Awkward Asian Theologian. And it's entitled Even Now, Bible Experience. You can clearly see it's the same image. And it says, one of the readings at Mass after Easter week was the episode of Jesus' raising of Lazarus, which is a story I've heard many times before. God, that makes it even more surreal because President Trump getting shot in Butler and then getting up and going fight, fight, fight. Everybody was expecting him to be dead. It was like the hand of God reached down and brought him back or stopped him from being killed in the first place. This year was different. This year I came to the readings with the resonances of Easter Triduum still fresh in my mind, in which I felt the thrilling and terrifying call to step out of the red seas of my life where the waters of death threatened to surround me. For this reason, when the gospel was read, my mind this year focused not on the resurrected Lazarus, but the mourning Martha, who upon seeing Jesus, Martha said the following, Lord, If you had been here, my brother would not have died, but I know that even now God will grant whatever you ask of him. Even now. These two words, previously ignored, now stood out as the most significant fragment to me. I mentioned before the call to step out into the tombs and red seas of my life was terrifying, and part of the reason was my tendency to catastrophize. With this tendency comes the fear that should I take that first step into the tomb, God would leave me sealed in. But by my own reckoning, I have only my fear that I would be left alone to face the stranglehold of one undeniable fact, the certainty of the world's unalterable terminus of death. The Lazarus narrative stands as a bulwark against human certainty. In this narrative, Jesus breaks the closed circuit of death, leaving in the midst of its impenetrable inevitability one small and tantalizing pinprick of redemptive doubt. It is the same kind of doubt that the prophet Joel uttered when, against the seeming certainty of the downfall of Judah, he asks, "Who knows? He may turn and relent and have a blessing behind him." This week, my heart felt called to hold on to these two divinely inspired expressions of redemptive doubt, for upon this doubt lies my entry into life. And even when it appears all but certain, I am making my first steps into oblivion. These seeds of divine doubt planted by the Lord prise open the sealed tomb of human inevitability, creating an opening, however small, for the little resurrection that takes place every day and which paves the way for the final resurrection, which we profess in the creeds, to thread its way into the tapestry of our existence. God, I really, really like that. That's great. That is great. All right. Finally, on to this last piece from the night of. There are, this is just a collection of images of people as they were being whisked away, because, of course, there were a lot of important people there, lots of cabinet members, RFK Jr. and his wife, Steve Miller and his wife right here. Secretary Hegseth can be seen right there. He's standing tall. He's kind of a badass. Here is all three of them.
Katie, do you have all your stuff?
Yep, I'm fine. So.
Sorry, guys. My bad. Can you imagine being the blowhard with your phone out, recording what's going on in the midst of all this chaos? God. Anyways, this is the footage of JD being whisked away. Everybody's already seen that. Majority Whip getting pulled out. Tom Emmer. You have Mike Johnson being rushed down the hall. Obviously, you know, depending on their seniority and their importance, they're going to have fewer people. Erica Kirk sobbing as she's being whisked away. That is General Flynn saying, "Pray for the president." All right, now let's talk a little bit about the so-called security lapses. Again, it was successful in that nobody was killed. However, Susan Crabtree at Real Clear Politics has a couple of people inside the Secret Service who have come to her and said, all is not well. So she says, in the wake of another assassination attempt on President Trump at the White House Correspondents' Dinner on Saturday night, sources tell me that White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles rejected efforts by former DHS Secretary Kristi Noem to impose more reforms on the Secret Service earlier this year after a string of scandals and failures. And I think it's undeniable, guys, that the Secret Service has had a series of scandals and failures. We've talked about all of them here on the channel. But she continues by saying the DHS leadership at the time wanted to install a political, hand-selected chief counsel after Secret Service Director Sean Curran's top attorney resigned after an embarrassing road rage incident. We talked about that. That was certainly not a good look. Susie Wiles, who directly oversaw the Secret Service and kept Curran in place despite numerous lapses and scandals, resisted efforts to install a hand-selected chief counsel. A former administration official with direct information about it told Real Clear Politics. These sources also contend that Wiles undercut another effort to have a DHS deputy chief of staff offer reform recommendations to the Secret Service. Now, personally, I don't know what the problem is. I mean, why wouldn't you want as many eyes on something as important as this as possible? But I also know that when people rise to certain levels of power, they get a little bit testy about anybody telling them how they should better do their job. Egos, unfortunately, get in the way, and I don't think anybody is immune to that. The security lapses and embarrassing incidents include missing the tree stand in the tree at the West Palm Beach International Airport. Remember that one? That was a big one. Allowing Code Pink protesters to harass President Trump and several cabinet members at that D.C. restaurant. That was a huge one. Missing a Glock during a screening at a Trump golf course in Virginia. 2 officers getting into a physical fight outside President Obama's residence. An agent celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination on social media. You can't forget about the female Secret Service agent who married an illegal alien and then was illegally harboring her in her home. She was one of the agents who was there at Butler on that fateful day. How many close calls does President Trump get before Curran and others at the Secret Service lose their jobs? A former administration official asked in an interview with Real Clear Politics after the assassination attempt at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The guy is going to get killed and everyone will keep their jobs, the former official remarked. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt flatly denied the assertions that Susie Wiles opposed the DHS's leadership team's Secret Service reforms. And this is directly from Leavitt. Let me be clear. Nobody cares more or has pushed harder or has asked more hard questions about President Trump's safety than Susie Wiles. The insinuation that Susie would object to anything that would help strengthen protection for her boss and friend is absolutely absurd. And I tend to believe that, unless you think Susie Wiles is not thinking about President Trump's best interest. And there are definitely people who believe that. Leavitt did not respond to specific questions about whether Wiles was involved in a decision to walk the DHS deputy chief of staff, offering reform recommendations out of Secret Service headquarters, or rejected the appointment of a political chief counsel. A source familiar with presidential security protocols says Wiles has let Curran remain in his job despite numerous failures on his watch and no firings for Butler. In fact, Curran gave 2 Butler supervisors big promotions, even though they failed to ensure that all the buildings at the Butler rally were covered with security assets. One is now an assistant director in charge of professional responsibility and all disciplinary actions against Secret Service employees. They're about to fire Cash, and he had nothing to do with this when Susie oversees the Secret Service, and it's failure after failure after failure, and she gets no blame. I find that difficult to believe, that they would blame the FBI for the Secret Service's performance at an event like this. I tend to think that you've got, and I think everybody here probably believes this, you've got a lot of competing egos inside the administration. People might even think they want to do what's best for President Trump, but they may believe that in order to do what's best for President Trump, they have to directly go against what President Trump is telling them to do. People tend to get really high on their own supply. This should have been the most secure perimeter in the world, and the fact that that guy made it through the mags underscores the epic failure of the Secret Service in protecting the president. Other sources tell Real Clear Politics that Wiles never wanted Curran as U.S. Secret Service director, but Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump wanted him for it. Now, that's something that President Trump has already previously said. If anything goes wrong, it's on the boys for choosing him, Wiles has remarked to other top administration officials after Trump decided to tap him, according to multiple administration sources. So, again, when you have anonymous sources, people are going to say things that you really can't verify the validity of. Now, the one thing that I can tell you is true is that Susie Wiles is allegedly about to convene a meeting on security for President Trump to make sure that none of this ever happens again. And we're hearing this from Caroline Leavitt. So this meeting is going to come now because this is literally the fourth assassination attempt on President Trump since 2016 when he took place, when he took office. And of course, even before that, there was that attempt by that British kid who rushed him when he was on the campaign trail. This meeting on his security is stated that President Trump and the White House are standing by the leadership of Secret Service. President Trump has said he personally thinks they did an excellent job neutralizing the shooter and moving the president, first lady, vice president, and cabinet to safety. Nevertheless, Chief of Staff Susie Wiles is convening a meeting early this week with the White House operations team, U.S. Secret Service, and DHS leadership to discuss protocol and practices for major events involving POTUS. It's not a bad idea. I think everybody should welcome it. The meeting will discuss the processes and the procedures that worked to stop Saturday's attempt while exploring additional options to ensure all relevant components are doing everything possible to secure every major event that is planned for President Trump in the months ahead as he gears up to celebrate America's 250. I think this is something that is necessary. So let's go ahead and make sure that they do the best job they can.
What is the White House's message to the millions of Americans who wake up here today nervous, uneasy about the safety of the president at events like this and the safety of other cabinet members?
Well, we certainly understand their fears and their worries. As you heard from the president himself, he continues to have trust in the United States Secret Service. As I just said, these are great men and women who are doing their jobs and performing their duties honorably. As we all witnessed on Saturday evening, within minutes, the president, the first lady, the vice president, members of the president's cabinet were ushered out of the room. The perpetrator who sought to inflict massive harm, as we all now know with the release of the manifesto on administration officials and the president himself, was stopped at the security perimeter that was set up. He tried to charge through it, as you saw on video, and he was quickly neutralized by Secret Service, and thank God that he was. With that said, obviously, the White House is always asking the tough questions and ensuring the safety of the president. I understand there will be a meeting early this week convened by the White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles with top DHS leadership, members of the United States Secret Service, and our own operations team here to ensure the safety and the security of the president, as we do have many of these major events moving forward. So we're always monitoring operations and procedures, always asking the tough questions to ensure the president is safe, and the American people should be assured there's no higher priority for the president and his staff than the president's safety.
Okay, good. I think that's what people need to hear. And I saw people in the chat saying that you don't survive as long as Susie Wiles has in politics without being dirty or without getting dirt on other people. I think you're absolutely right. But I also think two things can be true at the same time. Susie Wiles may be entirely devoted to keeping President Trump safe and ensuring that his agenda is, his, and that, he completes it in a timely fashion, or at least to the best of his ability. But she also may be vying for her own safety and her survival. I think a lot of people do that in Washington, D.C. It's really disgusting. They don't call it the swamp for nothing. But Susie Wiles may have done some pretty despicable things in her life, and she may also be totally devoted to President Trump. I don't think that one has to be true or the other. But of course, there are people who suggest that Susie Wiles is merely there to ensure that the next candidate to come up is somebody that she's also close to, somebody like Marco Rubio or J.D. Vance. And people have oftentimes said that it's J.D. Vance, but Marco Rubio and Susie Wiles have been connected at the hip for many, many years. Susie Wiles was a force in Florida politics for a long time, and she basically got Marco Rubio into his seat in the first place. And now that Marco Rubio is at the level he is in federal government, if she was going to be devoted to anybody, I would assume that it would be Marco, not JD. But I see a lot of people wanting to believe that, like, JD is somehow subverting the president from inside. And I personally don't see that. I don't think that President Trump would have put himself into a position where, J.D. Vance is going to subvert him or do something to undermine his presidency. And I also think that President Trump is a lot smarter than people give him credit for. And I think that he's learned a lot since the first administration. And yes, I think that Rubio, he's shown himself to be probably the most competent person in the administration aside from Donald Trump. So it's not a foregone conclusion that J.D. Vance is going to be the candidate in 2028. But it's way too early for us to even go there. You know how I feel about that. I don't want to do that. All right, so the reaction online was exactly what you would expect. I have found no fewer than like 24 examples of leftists waking up on Sunday morning and basically crying about the fact that President Trump wasn't assassinated again. They were so upset, and they just kept posting all of their cutesy TikTok videos, talking about, like, why can't somebody just finally do this for us? We need a better class of assassin, people were saying. It was absolutely disgusting. I've got 2 examples for you. And both of these people are going to have their lives ruined. They're both going to lose their jobs. They're going to lose their businesses. They're basically going to be totally destitute, and their lives are going to be shit after this. So I hope it was worth it. All right. So this woman on screen right here is a kindergarten teacher in Cincinnati, Ohio. And her name is Corinne Baum. We learned from her LinkedIn account that she's a teacher at the Children's House in Cincinnati. It's a private school, kind of like a Montessori school. And she posted a video on her TikTok lamenting the news that this gunman once again failed to take President Trump's life. Man, there's been a few creators on here saying that like Friday or yesterday could have been the day. And then I wake up to that news, but not that news, she said. And that news, obviously, that she's hoping for was the assassination of the President of the United States. So Corinne, excuse me, she looks like a Connie. Corinne is but from all appearances, she seems to be another barren, childless cat lady. And you can see here, you can contact the school at 513-898-3400. I don't know that that's necessary because I'm sure that the school has probably been ringing off the hook all day because people were all over her on X. They really did not want to let her get away with this. People started pulling up other TikTok videos she had posted, lots of unhinged stuff. Here she is. I'm not going to play the video that I just quoted, but, she says, she's all upset that the president's not dead. Here's another one where she's apparently showing the type of woman that she is, and it, makes sense why she's childless.
I do not know what to do with all of the rage that I have in my body right now. I'm gonna do 2 parts. This first part is in my own city. Thursday, April 16th, and yesterday, this fucking puppet, see you next fucking Tuesday, attempted to enter multiple Cincinnati public schools to do wellness checks on behalf of ICE. This is
okay, cool. I'm totally fine with that. But yeah, pretty much across the board, if, people who are, parents, if they've got kids at this school, just random people have been calling this school. And I don't think that she's going to be a teacher there for much longer because it's really just in poor taste. Now, this next one, this guy is definitely going to have his business ruined. So he's a brewery owner in Wisconsin. And he put this post out suggesting that we almost gave away free beer, that the free beer would have been if the president had been assassinated. It's called Minocqua Brewing Company. Well, we almost got free beer Friday. Either a brother or sister in the resistance needs to work on their marksmanship, or he faked another assassination to get a positive news cycle. We'll never know. Regardless, we stand at the ready to pour free beer the day it happens. And this is him right here, Kirk Bangstad. He is a Democrat, makes perfect sense. Minocqua Brewing Company is a far-left brewing company. They're based out of Wisconsin, Minocqua, Wisconsin. They actually deleted the post because it got so much negative attention. And once people learned that he had posted this, a lot of former employees came out of the woodwork, and they made some pretty shocking claims, which he may have to answer for in the very near future. I guess that this guy takes 5% of all profits at his brewery and pumps it into dark money for Democrats. And let's see. Here's another one. I had a very pleasant day in the ER. I work there on palliative care for abdominal cancer. Hated Trump. Gladly told me. I leaned down and asked if she'd like to meet my doll. So I lent her my Trump voodoo doll and a pin to stab him. You could hear the laughter coming from the rooms as my patient stabbed the doll and her daughter took a video of the fun. I eventually went back for the doll and my patient looked up at me and said she finished up by leaving the pin in the Trump doll's heart. She whispered conspiratorially, I stabbed him several times in the penis. Totally normal behavior. So there you have it, folks. Voodoo dolls are being used extremely effectively for palliative care. This woman is working at like a hospice or something like that. And this is the type of people who frequent this this establishment. Now, here, let's show you what kind of a person Mr. Kirk is. Okay, so this was posted on Reddit, and somebody says, I used to work at his restaurant. He's a total piece of shit. I am still in contact with a few old coworkers. He stiffed us all in our last checks. He brought up kids from Ecuador with the promise of a good job in housing. He paid them way less than the rest of the staff. The house was mostly unfurnished and 5 miles away. I know because I drove them home every night so they didn't have to walk. They only had a mattress with no sheets, no couch, no chairs, no tables. He would drop back off house wages with 1 shift notice whenever business slowed down. No shift meal. Beer was full price for the staff. One of the easiest things you can do for your staff is a shift drink and a sandwich. I heard rumors of him giving servers and management cocaine to sleep with him while his wife was at home dying of cancer. And then, given his ego, that is totally believable. In short, F. Kirk, all my friends and family up there hate him, and I wish that he would go back to New York. So that is the type of person that that Kirk actually is. And I hope that ICE investigates his hiring practices at his bar right there, at his brewery. All right, we have one more message from our friends over on Rumble, and then we're going to transition into discussions about redistricting and hopefully some good news. All right, you guys, you know that banks are not your friends. They can freeze your accounts. They can shut off your cards. They can lock you out of your own money, and they can do it overnight because banks don't protect you. They control you. This is why real financial freedom starts with ownership. So introducing the Rumble Wallet. It's a non-custodial wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can also own Tether Gold. It's real gold on the blockchain because through Tether Gold, you get direct ownership of physical gold bars. Each one is fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. It's not paper gold. It's not an IOU. This is real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers, and you can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold bars. That is powerful. When you support creators on Rumble, you can also use the Rumble Wallet app to tip them directly. It's peer-to-peer and it's outside the banking system, so there's no permission or middlemen or cancel buttons. It's your wallet forever. So thank you very much to Rumble, and thank you very much to our President Donald J. Trump. All right. So we just got some pretty big news in Texas. The Texas State Supreme Court reversed a lower federal district court's ruling that previously had blocked their efforts through the Congress, through congressional redistricting, to change the map of Texas. This is the map that will be getting rid of Jasmine Crockett and Al Green. So the ruling solidifies the 2025 mid-decade redistricting plan that was passed last year. It was known as Plan C-2333, and they used it for the 2026 midterm elections and beyond. So it now clears the way for what could basically give Republicans as many as 5 additional seats in Congress. So in short, the unsigned order was issued earlier today, and it says, we reverse the district court's judgment. No need to comment any further. And, of course, I'm sorry, this is not the Texas State Supreme Court. This is the Supreme Court of the United States of America. Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson all dissented but refused to give an opinion. So Texas gained 2 new congressional seats after the 2020 census. That brought them to 38. The new legislature drew the maps in 2021, but they've been under legal challenge. And in the summer of 2025, Republican leaders urged on by President Trump and Governor Greg Abbott, they convened a special legislative session to redraw those congressional lines mid-decade. And that moved it up a little bit and gave them those 5 additional seats. So it was passed by the legislature earlier, and it was signed into law by Abbott last year. And it was explicitly designed to flip several Democrat-held districts that were already gerrymandered. So the gerrymandering was essentially undone. And of course, it was also maps that were drawn based upon racial preference, which is actually illegal. And they were also taking into account illegal aliens living in the state of Texas as well. So the suit went nowhere except to bring it to the Supreme Court, who gave us this 6-3 decision. And this is good news because it opens the door for redistricting fights all around the country. The governor of Mississippi over the weekend, even prior to this redistricting, had suggested that he was going to do the same thing. And now that it's being decided, Mississippi is also going to do the exact same thing. They're going to be calling a special session, and they're going to redraw their districts, and it will also give an advantage to Republicans. And I believe that they're going to lose just 1 Democrat seat. But he mentioned this on Friday. He said, I don't typically make news on Friday, but I'm going to make an exception today. I'm calling a special session. During the recently completed regular session, the legislature discussed drawing new maps to comply with a decision from a federal judge from the Northern District of Mississippi, a decision that's being appealed to the Fifth Circuit, and the appeal has been heretofore stayed pending future U.S. Supreme Court decisions, which, of course, happened today. The entire world knows the Calais decision has not yet been handled down by the U.S. Supreme Court. It's a decision that could, and in my view should, forever change the way we draw electoral maps. It's my belief, and federal law requires, that Mississippi's legislature be given the first opportunity to draw these maps. And the fact is, they haven't had a fair opportunity to do so because of this pending Calais decision. For those reasons, I'm using my constitutional authority to allow the Mississippi legislature to use their constitutionally recognized rights to draw these maps once the new rules of the game are known following Calais. So it's my sincere hope that in deciding Calais, the Supreme Court will reaffirm the animating principle that all Americans are created equal, and that when government classifies its citizens on the basis of race, even as a perceived remedy to right or wrong, it engages in the offensive and demeaning assumption that Americans of a particular race, because of their race, think alike and share the same interests and preferences, a concept that is odious to a free people whose institutions are founded upon the doctrine of equality. So the special session will take place 21 days after the Supreme Court decision's announcement, so 21 days from today, and Mississippi will also have a plus however many red congressional map. Now, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has also announced, yes, now we are going to do the exact same thing down here. Now, this is something they've been talking about down here for quite some time. But now that we've got this Calais decision, there's nothing holding us back. And they are also going to have a session. And this new map is going to give Republicans 4 additional seats, take away 4 seats from Democrats. So the initial announcement of this came in January when DeSantis had called for that special session. He said every Florida resident deserves to be fairly represented and also constitutionally. And today I'm announcing that I will be convening a special session of the legislature focused on redistricting to ensure that Florida's congressional maps accurately reflect the population of our state and comply with an upcoming Supreme Court ruling. This special session will take place after the regular legislative session, which will allow the legislature to first focus on the pressing issues Floridians face before devoting its full attention to congressional districting in April. Florida got shortchanged in the 2020 census, and we've been fighting for fair representation ever since. Our population has grown dramatically, and we've moved from a Democrat majority to a 1.5 million Republican advantage. Drawing maps based on race, which is reflected in our current congressional districts, is unconstitutional and should be prohibited. And, of course, now it is. So our new map for 2026 makes good on a promise to conduct mid-decade redistricting, and it more fairly represents the makeup of Florida today. So this will also happen down here. So now we're looking at +9 Republican seats in the U.S. House of Representatives, -9 for the Democrats. We'll see exactly how that pans out. Probably going to be seeing this happening in a number of other states around the country as well. Okay, so let's also take a look and see what's going on with Ilhan Omar. Now, Filter Dog had mentioned Ilhan Omar believing that we have fought 11 world wars, but of course that isn't the case. Hold on, I thought that I had bookmarked it. Ilhan Omar World Wars. I got to play this for you. Okay. Take a listen.
The last time the Alien Enemies Act was invoked, it was used to detain and deport German, Japanese, Italian immigrants during World War XI.
Doing World War XI. World War XI. Somebody ought to teach her what Roman numerals are. All right, so Sam Antar has been on the case with Letitia James, with, I forgot her name at the Fed. Was it Lisa? It doesn't matter. Anyways, also looking at Ilhan Omar's finances as well. So this is after she had posted her revised financials. He says, new forensic accounting investigation. Ilhan Omar's amended financial disclosure numbers don't reconcile. I committed fraud at Crazy Eddie. In case you didn't know, Sam Antar was busted for fraud. The SEC went after him. He did some prison time, but then he made good by going and working for the federal government and helping them catch fraudsters and stopping people from stealing money from Americans. He said, I committed fraud at Crazy Eddie. Then I spent 30 years teaching the FBI, SEC, and the DOJ how to catch people like me. I followed the documents, not the politics. On April 20th, I told Newsmax that Ilhan Omar's amended financial disclosure did not fix the problem. In fact, it created a new one. Her husband's venture capital firm had $42.44 million in the bank in February of 2024. Excuse me, $42.44. Then it was disclosed as worth up to $25 million. Then it was amended back to zero. That doesn't reconcile without work papers. The same two entities went from being worth up to $30 million to being worth zero, while the amended filings simultaneously reported income from those same entities. The Wall Street Journal reporting also identified a distribution to MyNet from at least one of them, worth zero, reporting income, and distributing value. That doesn't work, and it doesn't reconcile. Show the work papers, he says. Income and distributions are not the same thing. Income is a K-1 allocation. It's your share of partnership profits, whether or not you receive cash. A distribution is actual cash or something else of value leaving the entity, and the amended filing shows income. The Wall Street Journal reported identifying at least one distribution. If liabilities supposedly wiped out the equity value, the public record needs to reconcile how value still flowed out. Because once there's nothing left, there's no value to leave the entity any longer. Asset valuation and income are different calculations from different source documents. An accounting error may explain one number, but it does not explain why asset values collapsed while income rose from the same entities in the same amendment. That is not a conclusion. That is a reconciliation problem. The winery had $650 in the bank while previously disclosing itself is worth up to $5 million. Not $650,000, $650. That does not prove the valuation was false by itself, but it demands a balance sheet, valuation work papers, and a creditor schedule. Rose Lake Capital reportedly claimed $60 billion under management. But there was no publicly identified SEC registration or exemption. They were working out of a WeWork office, and they only had $42.44 in the bank. So $60 billion claimed as managing, but only $42 in the account. Both of those things can't be true at the same time. Pick your reality. E Street Group, that's another one. That was her husband's consulting firm. They disclosed that they were worth between $1,000 and $1,000, while at the same time they reported up to $1 million in partnership income. It's worth almost nothing, but it's reporting up to $1 million. Wow, that also can't be true. And it sounds very familiar. Every single one of these business entities that Ilhan Omar and her husband are operating, they all have the same thing in common. They're worth nothing, but they are paying a lot. And that can't be possible. Another Minet company was listed at no value while reporting up to $50,000 in income. And then it vanishes from the disclosures. It's gone. Poof. Like Kaiser Soze, no Schedule B sale, no exchange, no reportable disposition shown. It just disappears. Investors were promised a 200% return in 18 months on a $300,000 winery investment, plus 10% monthly interest if it was late. That rate raises obvious usury questions unless an exemption was applied. Guess what? The winery later had $650 in the bank. The public record demands answers. The public record would demand those answers whether or not Ilhan Omar was a member of Congress. If Ilhan Omar was just some Joe Schmo business owner on the streets, all of these records would be scrutinized just as heavily by the IRS. The unidentified liability gap needs to explain the zero valuation exceeding $3 million, and the disclosed personal liabilities max out at $100,000. So where are the other liabilities or valuation offsets? Who holds them? On what terms are they being held? You've got 9 advisors, including former ambassadors and political figures, who were removed from Rose Lake's website during the investigation. You had former Democratic Senator Max Baucus, who had been listed as an advisor. He told the New York Post it sounded a bit fishy. That was his words. That was nobody else's words. That was former Democratic Senator Max Baucus, who was on the website for the company. The amendment came after congressional ethics contacted them, not before. And the winery dissolved 9 days after the amendment, while a congressional document request remained pending. 9 days. That is, again, very coincidental. You can't look at those two things and think that they're not directly related to each other. Now, Sam says, I'm not claiming Ilhan Omar is guilty. I'm just saying the files don't reconcile with one thing. Well, documents. If this is all true, if this was merely an accounting error, and if the businesses were real to begin with and all of this money was actually there, you should have the paperwork to prove it. You should have K-1s. You should have distribution records. You should have creditor schedules. You should have investor records. You should be able to show who put money into these businesses, and then you should be able to show where that money went. Now, Sam Antar has done a full forensic analysis on Ilhan Omar's financials using the very documents that she has submitted. And I'm just going to end it with this. Original filing, all of those businesses, combined asset value of $30 million, combined income of $15,000. But then again, the amended filing is at a combined asset value of $0 with combined income of $1 million. So either these businesses were bringing in money and then they were just banking it, or Ilhan Omar and her husband ripped a whole bunch of people off and stole all of that money. Allegedly, not necessarily in my opinion, because I'm not a forensic accountant. However, this is definitely something that needs to be looked into. Now, the very guy at the SEC who put Sam Antar in prison commented on this on X, and he was like, oh shit, Ilhan Omar is in trouble. If Sam Antar is looking into her financials, she's not going to get away with any of this. Yes, I think that there's any number of crimes that we can probably identify looking at this. But again, I am not a forensic accountant. However, I can tell you that there are plenty of them at the IRS and at Treasury. So please, God, please do us a solid here. Let's do a real investigation of Ilhan Omar. All right. I'm going to leave you guys with this because this is a big story. So earlier this morning, Chuck Grassley put out a slew of new documents related to Hillary Clinton. Quite literally, a who's who of the pay-to-play criminality that the Clinton family and Hillary Clinton's business dealings, the Clinton Foundation, all of it, the pay-to-play criminal schemes that they were involved in. But what's really fascinating about it is that all of this information was previously known to the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Department of Justice, and it was all buried. Okay, we're talking Uranium One, Benghazi, Boeing. We're going to go through a whole bunch of them, but all of this information was previously known to our Justice Department, and they did nothing about it. And when you stack that up against the treatment that President Trump had, well, it's pretty shocking, the double standards we have in our system of justice. Justice is a very loose term when you look at this stuff, because the cases against President Trump started with essentially a fake rumor that was planted by Hillary Clinton. And then the same thing happened with every other investigation. It was just some bullshit rumor that got into the hands, planted with the FBI, and then they went ahead and ran with it. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton, this woman is a masterclass in political criminal corruption. So Margot Cleveland writes, this morning, Senator Grassley released the FBI Washington field office's 12-page electronic communication that opened a preliminary investigation into the Clinton Foundation. It's extensive evidence of potential pay-to-play criminality among the Clinton family, and it confirms the politicization and weaponization of the Department of Justice. Now, I've seen that there have been more documents released since early this morning. There's about 90 or so pages that are out currently. And again, it spans the gamut of everything that Hillary Clinton did. Last year, another trove of documents, also released by Grassley, summarized the origins of the 3 separate FBI investigations into the Clinton Foundation, opened respectively out of New York, Little Rock, and Washington, D.C. That would have been the first special counsel investigation. As the Federalist reported at that time, those documents indicated that Ray Hulser, then head of the Department of Justice's Public Integrity Section, did not support the investigations into the Clinton Foundation and withheld information from the U.S. Attorney's Office running the probe out of Little Rock. Special counsel John Durham would later question Hulser about the Clinton Foundation investigations, and the former Penn section chief told Durham's team that although he had declined to prosecute on behalf of the Public Integrity Section, he told the office he made it clear, however, that his decision was not binding on the various U.S. attorneys' offices or FBI field divisions. So Hulser explained his reasoning to the special counsel by claiming, in sum, the FBI briefing was poorly presented and that there was insufficient predication for at least one of the investigations due to its reliance on allegations contained in a book. According to another section chief, the Department of Justice's reaction to the Clinton Foundation briefing was hostile. Nobody wanted to touch this because everybody back then knew that if you went after Hillary Clinton, chances were pretty good you were going to hang yourself from a 20-foot oak tree, 20 feet off the ground, with an extension cord, while at the same time shooting yourself in the chest with a 18-inch barrel 12-gauge shotgun. Good luck doing any of that on your own. So Hulser's refusal to open that investigation out of the Public Integrity Section and his excuse that the FBI presented the case poorly cannot be reconciled with the detailed summary contained in this EC that's now been made public. So Grassley highlighted in a letter sent to Acting Director Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche and FBI Director Kash Patel. Included in the FBI's EC are numerous allegations of foreign influence concerns that arose from speaking fees and donations to the Clinton Foundation. The Iowa senator then pulls a few examples out of the Washington field office's opening communications, beginning with donations to the Clinton Foundation totaling $2.35 million from then head of the Russian government's uranium company, Uranium One. The EC is not limited to evidence about Uranium One by any means. It also details evidence of donations to the Clinton Foundation from an executive at Polo Resources. 8 weeks later, the U.S. ambassador to Bangladesh persuaded the prime minister to reauthorize pit mining, including one in which Polo Resources had an interest. Another section of the EC highlights evidence suggesting a pay-to-play scheme involving Colombian timber and another Clinton Foundation donor. The FBI EC also notes that Hillary Clinton traveled to Russia, where she allegedly prompted Russian officials to enter into a $3.7 billion aircraft purchase with Boeing. Then 2 months later, Boeing pledged $900,000 to the Clinton Foundation. The EC further discussed the Haitian government awarding Hillary Clinton's brother a rare gold exception permit, and the first issued in 50 years. And during that same time period, in which billions of U.S. taxpayer dollars had been sent to Haiti following the earthquakes in 2010. So what, if anything, the FBI did to investigate these additional and potential pay-to-play schemes before the Department of Justice closed those investigations in 2016 is unclear. What we do know, though, is that after President Trump was elected in 2016, Little Rock was able to reopen their investigation, but Hulser and the Justice Department continued to interfere in the investigation into the Clinton Foundation. So the documents released today show just how extensive that interference was. The lead assistant U.S. attorney noted in March 6, 2020, investigative update, memorandum that he still had 3 initial requests for investigative activities outstanding some 2 years after first seeking the information. And these delays followed after the pin chief refused to support the investigations into the Clinton Foundation and, along with other DOJ players, sought to thwart them. So the contrast between how the DOJ and the FBI headquarters handled the Clinton Foundation investigation and their obvious investigations into Trump and Trump supporters couldn't be any more stark. Here, we had a 12-page EC the Washington, D.C. field office used to open a preliminary investigation into the Clinton Foundation, while the FBI opened Crossfire Hurricane on Trump as a full investigation. They went full counter intel. And that was based solely on ambiguous comments allegedly made to George Papadopoulos that the Russians had dirt on Hillary. The same pattern repeats itself time and time again, the deep state protecting the Biden family while launching investigation upon investigation into Trump and Trump supporters. Grassley said he revealed the first tranche of documents showing the DOJ's efforts to shut down the Clinton Foundation investigation. For too long, our Justice Department has chosen winners and losers instead of enforcing the law without regard to party, power, or privilege. So whether the current DOJ and FBI take heed and follow the evidentiary trail the Senate Judiciary Committee and Grassley are laying out a potential obstruction of justice case remains to be seen. Now, I'm glad that she went there at the end because that, to me, is the most important part. I'm sure people are like, another strongly worded letter. Grassley, why are you writing letters, Grassley? Well, that's the only thing he can do. He's already gotten testimony from these people in front of all these committees. He's done the dirt. He's done the digging to get to these documents. And we've got a new Department of Justice head in Todd Blanche and obviously a new FBI chief in Kash Patel. There was obstruction of justice. There was an effort to sandbag President Trump, protect Hillary Clinton. Many different players inside the DOJ and the FBI, they sought to play favorites. They put their thumb on the scale and they went after President Trump. The effort to protect Hillary Clinton was happening at the same time as the effort to destroy Donald Trump. By my estimation, that makes the effort to protect Hillary Clinton part of the grand conspiracy. And, of course, the Clintons during that time were using the Clinton Foundation as a private piggy bank. They were performing pay-to-play schemes, quid pro quo schemes all around the world. Hillary performing favors as a head of state at the State Department. checks flowing into the Clinton Foundation, weddings for Chelsea Clinton being paid for, and Bill, Hillary, Chelsea all living lavish lifestyles. Likely one of the big reasons Hillary Clinton saw that the emails on her server were destroyed. So again, this is all part of the exact same overarching conspiracy of criminal actors seeking to protect themselves and seeking to destroy their political enemies. So the fact that Chuck Grassley is sending this information tied up with a bow, the proverbial bow, to Todd Blanche and Kash Patel, they have the ability to take it where it needs to go to ensure that there are criminal charges that are filed and that these people finally go to jail for the shit they've done, because I'm sick of it. I don't know about you guys, but I tend to believe that you are. All right, we have some thank yous I need to go through over here on Pilled and on Rumble. Surter says, isn't this attack a symptom of sedition from the Dems? Well, I mean, it's an attack. It's a seditious action on behalf of a single person. Can that man's motivations be tied to a specific larger group that was offering solace and direction instead of rather than just offering the same type of typical TDS bullshit? So no, I think that there isn't enough yet to suggest that. But I think that the language coming from these Dems on the regular seems to reinforce the idea that this is exactly what they want, but they know how to say just enough without saying too much. Let's see. BDR1776. Happy I made it to some of the live show today to get some honest news, not the leftist view, and some of the Marxist right. Thanks, Zach. I'm so sick of hearing this shit is fake. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you being here. BDR1776, Looking Glass. Yes, exactly. Back to Looking Glass. Will to Push Forward says, Zach, when these people are losing their jobs for their anti-Trump and anti-America posts, they want sympathy. They can open a dictionary and look between shit and syphilis. Dude, that is so good. That is so good. Oh, my God. I'm going to use that. Will to Push Forward says, Zach, yeah, we should watch out for World War 111. That would be the next one, wouldn't it? Emerald Dragon says, what a stupid bitch. Sorry, that's all I got today. Hi, Zach. You're the best, brother. Oh, I love you, too. Thank you for being here. All right, jumping back over to Pilled. Darla says, good afternoon, Zach and Lisa. Did you see the Google searches for Cole Thomas Allen were spiking in other countries prior to the shooting? What the hell? Yes, I did. We talked about that very briefly, but yeah, I mean, it's like, and this is, you know, one of the things that makes me, that is an argument for somebody having knowledge of this stuff. The question is then, you know, how do they have this knowledge? Is it that you've got people that can listen into these people's thoughts or their plans as they write them down from a remote location? Is it that somebody has come back from the future to give the information to people in the past? Is it that people are being controlled? I don't know. That's the thing. I mean, it's just like, geez, oh, Pete. Seanjo, thank you for 2 cookies. Jeff Bork says, problem is if 10 people came through instead of 1. Seanjo, thank you for the cookie. PJ Car 17, thank you for the can. P-Quest, thank you for the cookie. Tracy says, they have many times depicted POTUS as a lion, so a cat has 9 lives. You are absolutely correct. Lynn's over it. Still glad you're here, Lynn. Thanks for the cookie. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie. Filter Dog, thank you for the can. Sean Joe, thank you for 3, 4, 5 cookies. Filter Dog says, Grassley report is what I was waiting on. Yes, yes, remote viewing is a thing, D. Zaxi. But, you know, I mean, I would imagine remote viewing, from my understanding of remote viewing, you know, I mean, they would be like, you know, I'm seeing a hotel and I'm seeing a guy, you know, run down some stairs and he's hard charging through an archway. I don't know. I don't know that it's what people are doing is searching for his name, which seems to indicate far more detailed information rather than what they would be able to glean just from remote viewing. But I mean, I believe in, you know, telekinesis and precognizance as well. So Filter Dog, thank you again. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie. And Doog Boston says, hey, Red, what's up, homie? Thank you for the cookie. Appreciate you. All right, you guys, join me tonight at 10:30 for Baseless Conspiracies. If you can't do that, if you can't bring yourself to do that, then I am humbly requesting that you join me tomorrow at 5 p.m. for another episode of Red Pill News Live. Don't forget, we've got my friends over here at Oneness Drops, onenessdrops.com/promo/BOGO Red Pill 78. Also, my good friends at Tamarack Garden.
Your body doesn't need more synthetic fixes. It needs real plant medicine. Wild herbs are packed with minerals, adaptogens, and healing compounds your body actually recognizes and can use, supporting energy, immunity, and balance from the inside out. At Tamarack Garden, our supplements bring these overlooked weeds and wildflowers back into your daily routine. Don't just manage symptoms, support your body and eat your weeds. Head to tamarackgarden.com for $10 off your order of $50 or more when you use code RP78 at checkout.
Thank you so much to tamarackgarden.com. And thank you to all of the sponsors of the program. Every link is in the description below. Please check them out. They are all Patriot-owned businesses. Most of them are people that I know personally, and they've reached out and asked to sponsor the program, and that only happens when you guys actually buy products from them. And also, of course, you are supporting their Patriot-owned businesses as well. All right, you guys, good luck. God bless. Nothing can keep a good man down, and President Trump is the best among them. I will see you guys either tonight at 10:30 or tomorrow at 5 p.m. right here on another episode of Red Pill News Live. ZBM, late breaking rant says, look the Y files, look up the Looking Glass. I've done so many shows on Looking Glass. I haven't seen his Looking Glass show, but I can't imagine this got too much more in there. Oops, I meant to tell them, look up the Y files and look for the Looking Glass. Principled Enigma says, what we are dealing with is spiritual insanity. That is the point at which spiritual activity becomes apparent from the context of our limited perceptions of reality. All right, you guys, have a great night. Peace.